Joe White for Gates of the Arctic. You ready? All right, let's do it.
All right, so I'm Joe White. I'm one of the founding members of Roads, Rivers, and Trails. I've gotten to spend 14 consecutive summers traveling to Alaska. The very um, 6 of those summers, I actually got to work up there during the summers as a guide. Of all the places in Alaska, Gates of the Arctic National Park is by far my favorite place in Alaska and the world now. That we traveled all over the world, and this is still my favorite for many reasons. Mark Greenwald's here. He's one of my scoutmasters from Boy Scouts. He actually was the first person to show me Alaska and take me up on a trip to Gates of the Arctic. So that's really exciting. So Gates of the Arctic is still part of the Rocky Mountains. The Brooks Range is the longest east-west mountain range, I think, in the country or maybe the world. It's 8.5 million acres. There's one town up here that is only, you can't access it by road. Some natives live there. It's a native village. So the only way into the park is to fly to Anativik Pass or Bettles down here on the south and then take a float plane in. Or you can take the Hull Road up from Fairbanks. This goes all the way up to the Arctic Ocean and then hike in from the road. Um, so less than 7,000 people visit it a year. And there's lots to do here. Everything I've done here is backpacking, but there's 6 national wild and scenic rivers that cross through there, and that's on my to-do list, is to try and take one of those rafting trips. It's a really beautiful place. So the Continental Divide there, the southern half is going to be like a lot more vegetation is going to be a little taller, more trees. The northern half is going to be all alpine. So there's Yes, Gates of the Arctic's up there on the top below, I can't remember how many. Anyway, so when you're in Fairbanks, you get on a single prop plane and they take you up to Bettles. And then from Bettles, you jump in their truck bed and they take you out to the lake and then they put you on a float plane and you fly out on a lake. And they've got numerous lakes out there that you can land on. And one of the coolest parts about Gates of the Arctic is, depending on how much time you got out there, you can just take a map, pick a lake, figure out where you want to go to and go, and just, it's really cool. So there's so many different ways to go about it, but this is the first time I landed in Alaska, and after being in a float plane for about an hour, and it's so loud to this, after they push the plane away and they take off, you're just dead silence. And this is the first view that we had once it was dead quiet in Alaska. So really beautiful. And so we were going up there to visit the Ergetch Peaks, which are way back here. Very beautiful granite peaks, popular with climbers. We weren't there to climb, but we went to go bask in their glory. So that was the first trip that I ever took up there. Then I've gotten to take 3 other trips up to Gates, but all above the Continental Divide on the north slope. And the everything looks a little different. The valleys are wider, the mountains are more eroded. Most of the peaks are going to be around 3,000 to 4,000 feet, but there are some that could be up to 7. So that's one of the float planes. You get dropped off on the lake. And like I said, this is like we put on Loon Lake. We hike up a valley, go up another, but this is all above tree line, so all alpine. So you can see forever, but it doesn't mean it's easy hiking. It's some of the hardest hiking you can do. If you ever heard the term tussock, it's actually basically a basketball covered in grass, and they're all right next to each other. So you got to like either go between them or climb on them and twist your ankle. So it can be hard. But the views are incredible. The wildlife is amazing. So this is Agiak Lake. So on this trip, we had actually come from like back here, and then we were heading out to Agiak. And then a few years later, we did a big trip where we landed on Agiak and then hiked back this, and then you just pick 2 points on the map and just went for it. So when we're camped out at Agiak Lake waiting for our float plane pickup, we had my first grizzly encounter right there on the lake. And then after that, it just came really easy. Anyway, lots of grizzlies up there. you get 24 hours of daylight, which is nice. We can hike at night. Some of the views from the peaks. The last time we were up there, we were coming down this valley, and we're hanging out on the side of the valley, and we start to see what looks to be like, small animals coming down the valley, but hundreds or thousands of them. And then so we decided to take a lunch break, and we sit down, and then we realized they're caribou, and they're all just coming down our valley, and they start to come around, and then all of a sudden they split into two, and here comes two grizzlies running down between them. And what we realized after is we had seen part of the western caribou herd, which can right now they say it's about 200,000 head of caribou, and it's gotten as big as 400,000. So it's a caribou herd that runs the North Slopes and crosses through this part of the gates of the Arctic in late August before heading back north. So lots of wildlife, lots of grizzly bears. I think we had 6 at once in that valley. 6 grizzlies down in by the riverbeds, and you can get some taller willow, so you can like disappear in it if you're not careful. I feel like I'm talking really fast. I've never had 10 minutes to talk about Alaska, so I'm probably gonna finish in 4 now. So I'm sorry. So yeah, really beautiful place. And yeah, so when we're up there, you got to carry bear canisters, and they because you're obviously camping around bears, and when you're up there, you have to make sure you schedule your pickup time, with your float plane, and you always carry like 2 extra days worth of food, and so we carry all So our backpacks are like 60 pounds. I don't know. I ran through that really quick. I'm sorry. I just found out I was doing this presentation like yesterday, so. And then when I was doing great when I was like prepping in my car, but then when I sat down with like all the pictures, I was like, I can't do it. All right. So I ran through all my pictures, but I still have tons of stories. So if you have questions, I've got a few minutes, right? Yeah. Sorry. If you got questions about Gates of the Arctic or not, that's fine. Yeah.
With the bears in the area, did you have to stay a certain distance from like water?
So whenever I'm camping in areas like this where you're not near a stream or a lake, I always try and stay at least 300 feet away from that. So that way, if there any wildlife, whether it's bears or caribou or wolves, like want to access the water, they'll have plenty of room. And then like where we set up our camp kitchen will also be another 300 feet away. So you kind of create a triangle, and then stay away from it. And that way, anything that the bear finds, they don't associate you with it. And that's one of the big things too. That's one of my favorite parts of Gates of the Arctic is the bears are much more predictable than you would see in the lower 48. One of the guides that I was talking to down in Katmai was like, because everybody thinks that bears are very unpredictable, but they're much more predictable than humans. So it's Gates of the Arctic sees so few visitors that if they have a bear problem, they kill the bear instead of relocating it. Any other questions about Gates or wildlife? Yeah. So map and compass. It's all map and compass. The GPS that I had back then is super basic, and really enjoy using it. But we also would carry satellite phones in case we needed to call ahead to our float plane and get weather. You don't have risks of forest fires really around here, but Alaska is known for them. So sometimes you'll get smoke will blow in from a fire like hundreds of miles away, and all of the float planes fly in just VFR, only visual, so they can't use their instruments. So if you're out hiking and you see like the ceiling or it gets cloudy, you might need to call in, and you might have to extend your trip, or might have them come pick you up early. Yeah.
What time of year is and horse flies and mosquitoes?
So don't have to worry about horse flies, but mosquitoes are bad. Now they're not always bad. I mean, the bulk of the trip, they're very manageable, but there could be some moments where like you have your head net on, and there's hundreds on your head. Yeah, so you're packing the head net and packing everything, but it's not something that would deter me from going. And then season, you can go up. I think you could start going up in June. The earlier you go up, the buggier to be. We've gone as late as mid-August, and you get a little bit fall colors actually in the tundra, which is really beautiful. But we had one group that went up to Summit Lake, and I think it was July. And when they got to the lake, it still had a thin sheet of ice on it. And so they had to actually stay there for 2 more days until the ice melted and so the floodplain could stay in. Yeah. But it wasn't my group. It was another. Yeah.
All right. Thank you, everybody, for going through all that with us. Hopefully you found something that maybe you didn't know about or something new there. Let's go back.